It's Specter.
It's Null.
It's Raid.
And we're here to talk about Dragon Ball. But not just Dragon Ball like Dragon Ball Z, but OG Dragon Ball. Which, might be a foreign concept to some of you, considering how much of the Dragon Ball community hasn't watched it.
You don't know fun. The thing is, throughout all my years of meeting fellow Dragon Ball fans, it's like, what did you love about, old Dragon Ball? And they're like, I love the Frieza fight, man. I'm like, no. But old Dragon Ball. And they're like Vegeta and Nappa. I'm like, no. Like when Goku was a kid and they're like, he was?
The thing is, they have flashbacks of it in Z.
They do.
But, maybe you just think that those are flashbacks if you've never watched Dragon Ball.
And look, you can't really blame them too much, at least like the average fan, because the way it was released here in the US was DVC first. And then, we got all the other stuff.
Later on. Yeah, it's a shame that it started that way. But from the perspective of the American producers, so think about Funimation or Blue Ocean in this case, Dragon Ball, original Dragon Ball, wasn't as easily marketable as Z, because what do Americans like? Big explosions, buff ass Schwarzenegger dudes, and hype moments in aura. That's what we live for.
Hype moments in aura. And that's all Dragon Ball Z is.
And that is all Dragon Ball Z is.
Yeah. And that's okay. But I think what a lot of people are missing is just a fun story for Dragon Ball. And it's not to say that Z isn't a fun story, but it's a little bit different because you're missing out on adventure, not in the same way as Dragon Ball Z adventures. OG Dragon Ball adventure is so different, and it's structured in such a way that it's super memorable.
I want to ask you guys something. What was your first exposure to Dragon Ball?
The one that I can remember as a kid, probably the Buu saga.
For me, it was Toonami. I was 5 years old when I first got my first view of Dragon Ball.
But what specifically? Where at?
It was right around the Frieza saga.
Okay.
Man.
So Z, basically.
It was Z. Yeah, it was Z for both of us. Yeah.
But you see I guess for me, it's also the one that I have the most clear memory of is the Buu saga. But I do remember that I knew of Dragon Ball and I had watched it back then. So I knew that was a concept, but the one that stuck with me the most as a kid was the Buu saga stuff. Yeah.
I'll give you the first instance that I can even recollect for watching OG Dragon Ball, and it's on Toonami again. I'm at my grandparents' house, right? On the TV, it was the episode where Yajirobe had just killed Drum, and he's cooking him up and eating it.
Yeah.
And he has one of the Dragon Balls, and Goku's asking him for it to bring back Krillin. Yajirobe's not giving it to him, right? He's like, you can follow me around as much as you like, but you're not getting this Dragon Ball from me. I remember just watching that, and I was so confused at the moment. I was like, when does this, is this after they beat Frieza? Is that Gohan? Why does he look so different? And I had no idea at the time, that was OG Dragon Ball. That's my first interaction with the OG series.
It doesn't really help that Toonami has historically aired them side by side.
Dragon
Ball and then also Dragon Ball Z would be on the time slot. And if a kid has the choice of watching one or the other, they're probably thinking
they're gonna
Z.
choose the hype moments in order.
Yeah.
That's true.
My first exposure to Dragon Ball was actually the video games.
Oh,
yeah.
And so I actually had the fortune of watching it in order. Yeah, I mean, I did get exposed to it on Toonami, but I just watched it online, from start to finish. And I did have the misfortune of knowing what Super Saiyan was way before.
Yeah,
you missed out.
I mean, honestly, I think it was kind of like that for everybody.
Oh yeah, not to say it wasn't like that for me either.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember a time when I didn't know what Super Saiyan was, just because Dragon Ball was already massive, so we already knew all this stuff, so yeah.
Burger King, around the time I was a kid watching Dragon Ball Z, they had Happy Meal toys, or I guess the equivalent of a Burger King Happy Meal, and one of them was a Goku Super Saiyan toy. And I'm like, why is he blonde? But then I realized what that was later on, and I was like, wow, it's awesome. It's aura.
I think if you don't watch OG Dragon Ball, you miss out on a lot, especially because when you start Z, you're like, bro, who are these people?
Oh yeah, for quite a few.
I suppose you can kind of as you go on, it just kind of fills in, the context clues just kind of fill things in. But really you miss a lot of the glory days, because Z is when a lot of the cast actually starts becoming irrelevant. Like there's a joke about Krillin and Yamcha being useless and stuff, but it's like that wasn't always the case.
No. It sucks because, like I mentioned, when you start Dragon Ball Z, or when I was starting it, just as an example, these characters feel like very established with each other, right? It's not like they've met and then became friends throughout Z. Like they're already friends in Z, and it's so confusing for like a kid. Like these guys already know each other. Where's the development? Obviously, when you're a kid, you don't really care about character development. But let's say you were an older person, especially nowadays where it's just widely available to watch. You can watch it anywhere. If you start with Z, you're kind of missing out on character development.
I 100% agree. I think if you have any interest in Dragon Ball whatsoever, you kind of owe it to yourself to start with Dragon Ball instead of starting with C, which everyone's going to tell you start with C because like that's like the popular part, but you can't.
But that's like telling someone to start in part 3 of JoJo.
You're telling somebody to start like in the middle of the story, and that doesn't really make any sense, right? Like you wouldn't do that with like anything else. You would tell them
start in Naruto Shippuden.
Right.
That sounds ridiculous to anybody who like has watched Naruto, but honestly, it's almost the same thing.
But I mean, like that's essentially what you're doing when you're telling somebody like, "Oh, dude, don't worry about OG Dragon Ball. Just start with Z." It's like,
no, you're missing out on so much. Like
you're missing out on some of like the best stuff in Dragon Ball.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. You're missing out on a lot of good moments. Do keep in mind, OG Dragon Ball is also a gag series.
Yeah.
But when it gets serious, hey, there's some crazy moments in OG Dragon Ball that kind of, in my opinion, even live up to something similar to Dragon Ball Z. I'll give you the perfect example, the King Piccolo saga. That's such a serious saga for like a series that, for its grand majority, leaned heavily into comedy. King Piccolo's arc is not really a comedy. It's not funny.
That's because they told Toriyama like, hey, bring up the fights. So
we
need more of that.
Man, people love the fights.
and I mean, like, it has its gags and all that, like them trying to like seal King Piccolo in the rice cooker and
the
all
rice
that stuff.
yeah
like there are gags in that arc, but like that's when you start seeing like the evolution of Dragon Ball from like just a simple like adventure story with some gags and stuff to like a full-on shonen which focuses on the battle,
right?
And like that, where you see that transition happening completely is in the last arc of Dragon Ball, which is the best arc, by the way.
Yes, I agree.
The 23rd.
The 23rd, right?
Yeah.
I do like that one.
In my opinion, one of the best arcs in all of Dragon Ball.
I mean, honestly, for me, it's a top 3 arc in Dragon Ball. And all of Dragon Ball. The Frieza saga, the Cell saga, and then the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament saga for me. That's like how I would divide it.
My favorite arc is Cell, followed by the Saiyan saga, and probably the Frieza saga, if I'm honest. I'm a Dragon Ball Z fan. I'm not making this case easy, but I will say I'd probably put the Saiyan saga and the 23rd martial arts tournament almost in the same vein. Like they're almost equal to me.
I think one of my favorite arcs in Dragon Ball is actually the 22nd tournament, because Goku actually loses, and that's pretty impactful because really in Z we see him as like kind of like the hero, the only one that can actually do things.
He loses his first 2 tournaments and then wins the third,
which was impactful because he finally won a tournament.
And as a matter of fact, really the series was supposed to end with the 23rd. You know, he finally became the strongest man on Earth, and that was supposed to be his character arc. That was it. And then, you know, of course, they're like, "Hey, we gotta keep it rolling. We gotta keep it rolling, bro. Gotta sell more Shonen Jump."
But it's a shame because I feel like over time. And it's not to diss on Dragon Ball Z because overall I do prefer Dragon Ball Z stuff a little more. But this is also a case I'm going to bring up that OG Dragon Ball does that unfortunately it just takes a back seat, is unique moves.
That's true. Like the hypnosis technique.
The electric surprise or whatever. You have Tien using 4 arms, which we never see again.
That Piccolo growing.
Piccolo growing,
he never does that again.
Arms.
The evil containment wave.
Yeah.
Some characters spit, goo out of their stomach and it traps you. You have vampires and mummies that can turn invisible and like shoot blood, and it's all this.
The devil beam.
It's all unique concepts.
you can see how much they mean to like the overall franchise when stuff like Super tries to bring them back. Not even just Super, but Daima as well.
That's
brings
true.
back concepts like Super brings back the evil containment wave for Goku Black.
When Master Roshi enters the universe tournament, he does all of his old like techniques that he does in OG Dragon Ball, and it was awesome to see that.
Yeah.
And they worked too. They actually were working.
And then all of Daima is just literally them trying to recapture like the adventure sense of like the early arcs of Dragon Ball.
Yes. It doesn't work as well. I don't think Daima will capture that same magic.
Yeah. But I don't think you can capture that same magic. You know, it was like a once in a lifetime thing.
Well, it's because of the fact that they decided to put Goku as a kid again, as opposed to when he was actually a kid. And it was genuine and authentic.
Yeah. I think they really were missing the point of OG Dragon Ball. It wasn't the fact that we were on this adventure with Goku when he was a kid. It was that we were on an adventure, period. And we lost that. And they're trying to rekindle that same fire with the GT.
They did it with GT as well.
And not to say that they did it terribly, but they're not going to capture that same magic.
Now, I don't fully blame people for not watching original Dragon Ball. It's not really that easy to watch. You know, we have Dragon Ball Z Kai now, but there's really nothing like that for Dragon Ball.
There's fan edits?
There are fan edits, well, for both. Really, there's no official release of Dragon Ball that's easy to digest. And I'd actually make the argument that it kind of deserves a remake.
At the very least, it deserves the Kai treatment.
Yeah, at the very least.
I think so, especially since Super's getting the Kai treatment. So
yeah, so fucking random, by the way.
Dragon Ball deserves it before Super.
I would agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that it would do the series justice. It would kind of incentivize people to watch it. Not to say that OG Dragon Ball looks bad. It looks good for its time.
No, it
as
looks,
an 80s
it
anime.
looks great for its time.
It animates very well. Yep, the art style is still really nice.
There are certain things you can't shorten though without reanimating them.
Because back in the day, they used to drag those episodes.
Yeah, the pacing.
For everything they had.
If you know how bad the pacing is in Z, then it's kind of the same.
You're up for the same journey.
It's a meme for a reason. You know,
they don't scream for 10 minutes though. They walk for 10 minutes. They had to really get that walking cycle in.
One thing that Dragon Ball is kind of known for is Goku being an idiot, and that kind of came from original Dragon Ball. Yeah. But the thing is, he was never an idiot. He was just uneducated.
He's ignorant.
And Z actually shows you how much he's matured.
Yeah. I argue that that's like a Flanderization. I don't know if you've heard the term, but basically it's just you take one characteristic of the character and then you just make it
their whole character, which is
what Super did. Yeah.
Oh man, they butchered my man Goku.
Well, if you want to see where that one character trait came from, it came from original Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
But it was done much better there.
Because he's actually a kid. Uneducated.
So one thing that may turn off someone from watching OG Dragon Ball, there are some jokes that you could say
age well.
Didn't age very well.
There's a lot of stuff with Master Roshi that definitely didn't age well.
Don't watch it with your mom.
Preferably.
Don't watch it with maybe your girlfriend either.
Can some of it be funny? Maybe, but it doesn't hold up. And it may turn someone's eyes the other way from watching it. But if you can get past that, there are some pretty good gags, but it is Japanese humor at the same time. And
I promise, though, it doesn't last that long.
It doesn't. No. It's not a major plot point either.
I want to say the very last time that happens is maybe halfway through Dragon Ball, which is like during the Fortune Lady Baba tournament. I think that's the last time that anything weird like that happens.
Yeah, I would say like from there on out, like they start phasing out like all of those gags.
They stop hoeing Bulma out. I was just saying.
So much more of what C does hits harder because you've experienced Dragon Ball.
You get to see Goku's growth from just some kid who spent his life on a mountain learning basic martial arts to what we eventually get at the end. I just want you to know there's some aura in OG Dragon Ball. Mercenary Tao Pai Pai.
That's true.
He's got aura, man. He's an aura farmer. He's all hype moments in aura. My man chops down a pillar and then throws it in the air and rides that shit. He jumps to it.
Yeah.
King Piccolo, in my opinion, when he turns young, kind of has some aura too. He's badass. He's actually kind of a badass.
And I mean Piccolo Jr. too at the end has a lot of aura.
TN.
Dude.
TN's got aura, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they did him so wrong. Go watch our other video on TN. TN is
underrated.
underrated, man. He's underrated.